What made you become a professional game angling instructor, Ian?
I started working as a gillie when I was 19, and I started on a beat called McKerson, which is a well-known beat on the River Tweed. And during the course of the time that I spent there, in the early years, I was doing a lot of teaching. And the main reason that I became an instructor was that doing so much teaching, naturally through the natural day-to-day work, I wanted to make sure that I was teaching correctly and the most modern and relevant techniques to that time.
Very good. Are women easier to teach than men, you think?
I would say the answer to that, to be fair, with all due respect, is no. I think that the person comes in with an open mind, whether it be male or female, they can take a huge amount from a lesson. It's just making sure that the instructor puts over the message positively and clearly and concisely so that the pupil can interpret rather than the male or the female.
Okay. Do you see an increase in women anglers?
Yes, and it's great to see.
Oh, wonderful. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
What are the most common problems in casting you see with beginners?
Well, in double-handed, the most common problem that we will see is that people will invariably use the top hand rather than the two hands. Two hands on the rod, they have to work in equal and opposite force, opposite directions, but at equal time. And the most common problem is that tends to be an extension of the top hand. So they're trying to, in essence, throw the line forward.
Yeah.
When in actual fact you store energy in the spring and then quickly release it, as we found today.
Yes, exactly. Now, young blood is the future of every sport. Is there a lack of youngsters coming into salmon fishing?
I think that it's a very good question, and we do have a deficit of young anglers coming through as the next generation of anglers, and it's something that we do have to address, not only in Scotland and the UK, but I think the sport in general. What we need to do is to make it more appealing to the younger generation to enjoy this wonderful environment, not only catching fish, but actually the whole environment, the whole ecosystem, and the fact that you're out in the most wonderful situation.
And how can you do that?
Well, we have, one of the things that I'm heavily involved in is youth development, and we have a regulated programme through the local schools where we actually bring the classes to our teaching centre and they are able to experience all aspects of what angling is about, which is as much about the economic impact that it has to the local area, the environmental impact that it has to the local area, and also the historic aspect of it. You know, we've been angling on the river, sport angling on the Tweed for about 200 years. And our river system at one point was the basic manufacture for fishing rods, fishing reels and flies. And it's educating those children about the broadest range of what angling is all about, not just taking them on the water and saying this is how you cast and take fish.
Yes. Do you think salmon fishing is seen to be too elitist?
I think that thankfully that has changed, and there is of course still places where it costs a lot of money to fish the prime beach at the prime time, but I think that it's a misconception that it is an elitist sport. There is local angling associations, there is day ticket water that under the right conditions can offer excellent fishing at tremendous value for money.
Yes. Whose responsibility is conservation for salmon? Is it government, proprietors, anglers or others?
I think everyone. I think basically whether it's at governmental level or national level or international level, or the person that puts a fish back that he or she has been lucky enough to catch, anybody that's involved in this sport, we are obligated to conserve the fish for the future.
Yes, exactly.
For the good of the species, but also for future generations to be able to enjoy what we are here today enjoying.
Yes, exactly. What steps are taken on Tweed?
The Tweed is run, the governing body is the RTC, which is the River Tweed Commissioners, and what they do is they regulate the river. They basically offer the administration for the river and the scientific aspects. So they run the river management, but they also, under that umbrella organisation, is the Tweed Foundation, which is the scientific side of the river.
Yes.
And they look after the regeneration of habitat and making sure that there's the optimum access for young salmonoids to come out of the system to go to sea, and for the salmon to return after their sea migration.
What about netting at the mouth of the river?
But thankfully very limited.
Okay,
20
I'm glad
years
about
ago
that.
it would be, they would have to run the gauntlet of monofilament through the estuary to get to here.
Yep.
But very, very little netting capacity and actual operations now.
Are you working together with an organisation like NASF, North Atlantic Salmon Fund?
I think I personally fully support all the work that the organisation does, and all the wonderful work that Ori has done.
Yeah.
And I think the rivers and the boards, the river boards, are collectively working together and can only benefit from the work of buying out sea netting operations.
Yes.
And allowing the bulk of the problem, which is obviously much bigger scale than actually physically in the river, to be addressed by organisations like
North Atlantic
the
Salmon.
North Atlantic Salmon Fund. And long may their great, excellent work continue.
Thank you so much for the interview.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.